No one wants to buy new games any longer. And why would you, in fact, anyway? Spending 80 of your hard earned dollars on something that's probably a triple a buggy mess, infested with politics, slop fiesta, that's not even most likely 10 hours long at this point? A game that demands that you buy it because, well, every triple A game now has to be effectively the new big thing, otherwise it's gonna fail and then they're gonna call us bad people for not supporting it enough. Why would you? Especially considering there's probably at least 5 games in your Steam library right now, probably more, that you have bought at some point and not have played. AK, your back catalog. It's probably full. And there's probably old games that you are currently even still playing at this point and still having fun. So what is the point of buying a new game? Unironically, we got games at home. And this is not that, Walmart version of that sentence. It's the version where stepsis is also at home and her nightgown just slipped. So it's a pretty good experience.
Imagine everybody telling you how useless you are while still demanding that you buy their stuff. 5 years ago, they said that $70 was the new normal. Now they're eyeing $80 games. Microtransactions have infested everything. Mobile gaming's
Soon it's gonna be 90. Sony is doing stuff.
gone nuclear. These guys have brought in billions of dollars off the back of our spending and then poured 2 to 3 times as much into absolute garbage. And after all of that, an entire generation just stopped buying games. We're about to watch the games industry bottom out and lose the back end. Years of financial pressure shoved onto players, games being torn apart and sold back to us piece by piece, all to keep their shareholders happy, all about to flip. And it's not because of some new trend or protest, it's because Gen Z isn't buying. And not out of choice, they've just been priced out of the hobby entirely. Locked out of an economy, handed debt instead of jobs, and scam after scam ever since they became adults.
Now, granted, no one has debt. That's what people accumulate because of poor decision making in a lot of cases. Now, granted, I'm not gonna lie. If you're one of my American viewers, hope you never make it to the emergency room on a ambulance because that's gonna probably put you in generational debt. The newest thing that I saw, literally by the way, today, like 2 hours ago on Twitter, was an American mother posting that she is now 70K in debt because her newborn child, not even a couple of months old at this point, by the way, something happened and she called the ambulance and they took him to the ER for like 15 minutes. 70K in debt. Yeah, I mean there are ways to get debt, but mostly just never take a loan. That's how you do it. Student loans, complete scam. You're digging yourself a grave for a life.
Every time that I've ever talked about any of these video game industry issues, whether that's spending, pricing, or anything else, it's always been that it's not that these guys can't do any of this stuff. It's just that they're too damn aggressive. They're moving way too fast. They're asking for way too much, and they're outpacing their own customers to the point that they're lapping us. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why younger players are spending a fraction of what their older counterparts are and why that number just dropped even further. We're
Good.
also going to be digging into how this industry has been burning through its audience faster than it can replace.
By the way, we already knew that this was happening. This was a thing that people were talking about 3 months ago. The fact that the current gamers not actually spending a lot of money on games. Yeah,
Them and why this might be the moment that it all falls apart. I thought we had it bad. These kids are cooked. I feel like I've been sounding the alarms for the better part of a year now, pointing out every crack in the hull before the ship hits the rocks. Hell, Activision is out here channeling their inner Titanic by openly stating that they think Call of Duty is, quote, too big to fail, while apparently completely unaware of the generation.
oh god. Calling Call of Duty too big to fail. Battlefield is gonna fail. Call of Duty is also not doing great, right? One season they lost literally 50% of their players. Was it Call of Duty who had the paraplegic woman in World War Was it one or two? I don't even remember which one.
Iceberg every publisher is about to slam into. Now, before we get too deep into the why, let's start talking about what's actually happening. In an article from PC Gamer written by Stevie Bonifield titled New Study Shows Gen Z is Spending Way Less on Video Games Than Older Gamers. Young people can't even afford gaming anymore. They write,
Based, true and real.
young people are so strapped for cash right now that even video games are too expensive for them. A June study by Circana, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, found that spending among 18 to 24-year-olds dropped by 13% from January to April 2025 compared to last year. Video game purchases were hit particularly hard, falling nearly 25%, according to a chart Circana's Matt Piscatella shared on
Good. Good.
Blue Sky. For context, Piscatella shared another chart comparing the drop in spending among Gen Z to spending changes in older generations. The difference is dramatic. Where older generations' spending dropped less than 5%, Gen Z's is plummeting. It's particularly surprising.
By the way, okay, all of this sounds quite interesting, but let me contextualize this for you. Half of this money is literally America. Now, actually, America's like 45% or something like that, but, pretty close to half. Maybe more now, I'm not sure. But half of the money spent into games is American. And well, the fact that the average American roughly gets paid 3.3K ish a month, and most Americans have to spend like 2K of that on rent for not even a good house, by the way. This is actually not even that funny. It's sad funny, to be completely real. The housing market in America is completely insane. Most Americans have no real money actually to spend. So the fact that 50% of the people who are creating this spending, and it only drops by 25% means that, well, not good. It looks not good for American mentality in general currently.
To see such a sharp drop in spending on video games, which historically cater to young people. Now, to reference Matt Piscatella's post directly, video game spend among 16 to 24s is down sharply. Young grads are having a much tougher time finding jobs. Student loan payments are restarting for millions of borrowers. Credit card delinquency rates have risen to their highest points since before the pandemic. Overall, purchasing by 18 to 24s has plummeted, especially when compared to other age groups. Now, that's already bleak, but here's where it gets critical.
All of the young people now coming into the marketplace of you have literally no value. Thank you for applying to this for this intern level job that for some reason requires 20 years of experience. Yeah, there's some problems there. There's some problems with acquiring money.
For the games industry, back in March, a separate study showed that Gen Z and Gen A already make up 28% of all gamers. Millennials just falling right behind them at 26%. The difference between the two of them is that only 18% of millennials reportedly spent nothing on games, while more than double that number of Gen Z gamers spent nothing at all. And when they do spend, it's less across the board. Just 35% of Gen Z average more than $10 a month on microtransactions compared to 50% of millennials. And remember, all this data came out before the latest
That is insane.
spending drop, which means that right now, younger generations are probably spending less than half of what their older counterparts do. Now, we add this to the fact that older generations are aging out of the hobby, playing less, sticking to older games that were aimed at them, spending less money, and you have a spending collapse that is going to pull the rug right out from underneath the industry. And I do not see this getting better because nothing about the conditions for younger generations is going to improve anytime soon. I mean, I know it's practically a generational tradition now for each one to call the next one the problem, too lazy, too soft, unmotivated, doing something that the older crowd doesn't like. I'm a millennial. I heard it all. We lack work ethic. We were technology obsessed. We didn't respect authority. We weren't loyal to our employers. We were entitled, narcissistic, which I always found hilarious considering that those traits supposedly would be coming from the people that raised and educated us. It's basically just them criticizing their own work, but at least we could escape it. We had the internet at the time, which still felt like our own. Gen Z doesn't. They live under a constant torrent of criticism for things entirely outside of their control.
Big bets, take odds, which
True. I mean, not to talk about that too much, but if you have currently a nephew, doesn't matter which country you are from even, and they're like in the age bracket of 12 to 15, bro, I'm not gonna name things, but you know how close they are to start forming a certain type of units and going out in the world. It is insane.
one of these guys.
And it's very, 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 very common for them to be like that. It's actually uncommon for them not to be like that. It is wild out there.
Lives at home right now at age.
I think most men with even an ounce of testosterone would find this a touch demeaning.
We have to bring back shame in this country, Josh.
We do.
Like, it's
Bro, the fuck I'm sorry, did this thing just try to offend someone for not having testosterone? I'm fucking sorry. I can already smell that trust fund. I can already smell that trust fund leaking from him. Okay? Those hands have never fucking even touched a not polished surface.
crazy to me. Like, you would have to waterboard me like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to get me to admit that I'm a stay-at-home son.
But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement.
I have seen those videos. They're quite insane, by the way.
And order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem.
I'm going to crash out. They need to put me on the news. How can you blame them? We've seen nothing but headlines of companies switching to AI and automation. Microsoft just laid off 9,000 people at Xbox to build AI infrastructure. Fast food joints are running with skeleton crews.
Based Microsoft, by the way, again, based still, that's good for Microsoft. All of those people talentless.
And robots. Kids are graduating from college to find their entry-level jobs don't even exist anymore or somehow now require 5 years of experience. Their degree, which was told to them was their one ticket in life, is now useless. They are saddled with debt. They're being spawn camped by college costs, DoorDash, and buy now, pay later scams because they can't afford to buy anything outright. They've been scalped, Dropbox, pulled into pyramid schemes, conned into gambling on crypto, and spammed with...
I mean, okay, listen. There's a difference here. There's a difference. If you're a victim of any of this, yeah, that's a lot of your decision making right there. No one forced you to do any of the things that the masses did, but you chose to. Okay, I'm not gonna defend blindly. Some people make bad choices. That's just the reality of it. Every single person who sold their house to buy a monkey JPEG, I'm happy that you have lost 97% of the value. You deserve it.
Sports ads at every given turn. They're careening towards a future with no real hope or relief, and the best thing that society can give them is a mix of finger-waving Karens and some pull yourself up by your bootstrap Andes that are lecturing them for not wanting to swim in the pool that they just pissed in. These are the dipshits that are running the world right now, and it's fucking embarrassing. I feel for you younger generations because they pulled the exact same shit on us. Back in the early to mid-2000s, they camped us in high school, shoved us towards college, funneling kids into for-profit schools with unaccredited degrees, jacked up tuitions and fake job placement stats, all to manufacture hundreds of billions of dollars in debt. And then when it was all exposed as a scam, well, we were still labeled as the entitled ones in the workforce. It is wild to me that this is still the message that older generations want to push. Shame younger workers, demotivate them further instead of actually doing something useful. Things like bringing back vocational training, teaching real financial literacy in high school, or telling young men that they can make serious money as operators, electricians, pipe fitters, boilermakers, or in a dozen other trades where they can meet coworkers that will become like family, easing both their financial and their...
Oh, don't give me that family bullshit. Any company that tells you, run for the hills. That is a bad place. They are gonna demand things of you, and when it's time for you to be a little bit hurt and demand something from them, have fun. Bye bye. We are a family, but you support us. We don't support you. Ouch.
Social burdens. But no, keeping them financially disadvantaged is a lot more profitable for these guys. That's why I don't see things improving, not for younger generations and definitely not for the games industry. If you can't afford rent, you're not dropping $70 on a new game release or $20 on a Fortnite skin. You're thinking about the next meal. You're playing games for free if you even have time to play, or you're just finding cheaper hobbies altogether. So my question is, where's the relief supposed to come from an industry that's already outpricing its current user base when the next wave of customers can't even afford to walk in the door? Console prices are already north of $500. Games are being pushed at $80. Microtransaction bundles are just about the exact same price. Last year, we saw almost 19,000 games released, and nearly 150 of them were AAA and AA. Split that in half and average it out to $30 million for AA and $150 million for AAA, and you're looking at $13.5 billion invested in games, and likely even more this year. The spending is insane. The demands are insane.
That's a lot of money.
And instead of pumping the brakes, they're just flooring it right into the wall. I mean, beyond that, whether you have the money or not doesn't really matter because it's just not worth it anymore. The quality has dropped so far that when people can't afford games, there's less of a reason to bother. Publishers have convinced themselves that going wide, making every game for everyone, stuffing in every mechanic, every identity, and every message somehow is going to make their games more appealing, when all it's done is just made their games boring, bland, and forgettable. The reason that their games aren't selling right now is simple. It's because they suck and they're overpriced. Why would I pay $70 for Assassin's Creed Shadows when I could go pay $40 and play Black Flag? Why would I play Starfield when I could fire up Fallout 3 with mods and make it look current gen? For veteran players, there is less reason than ever to buy. For younger players, it's financially impossible. And that's the exact reason why these companies are so against things like stop killing games or digital ownership, because they don't want us sticking to the games that we already have. They want to force us into the next thing, whether it's worth it or not. But here's the problem with that.
That's also partially extremely true about them wanting to force you in different games. This also happens with old games that are still kind of dead. Fallout 4 is a great example, I think. Bethesda's, for some reason, still trying to ruin Fallout 4. The next-gen update came, didn't work. Okay, how about ruining it even more? Slightly just more. So everyone gets pushed into Fallout 76, which is literally a microtransaction hell. Obviously, as a company, they want this. As a consumer, you don't.
Strategy, especially given the financial conditions that a lot of people are in right now. When people feel pushed, they push back. So if you're going to price your customers out of the hobby, if you're going to make the games that they own inaccessible, well, they're just going to find another way like they always have, whether that's buying used, whether that's emulating, whether that's just pirating these games. And I don't think that's a genie that you can try to put back in the bottle. You can clap down on it as much as you want, but these folks will find a way to crack these games eventually, especially when they're motivated enough. And a lot of people are going to get very motivated very soon. And this is a grave that you dug for yourself. In a lot of cases, you're still digging. No wonder these guys want us to get rid of our digital privacy. Wonder why. Never solutions, only stopgaps to protect themselves. That's all these guys have ever used, while also at the exact same time jacking up prices on their customers and putting so much pressure on them. And things are spinning so wildly out of control that this is one of the few times that I actually don't see a clear picture.
Dude, you gotta love real life, right? Prices of food increased by 10%. Well, guess we have to increase the salaries of people by 5% in that case. Surely this will make it up for it. Salaries increased by 5%. Wait a minute, the salaries of the working class just got increased by 5%. Let's jack up the price of food by 10% more. How about that? Yes. What a great thing to live in.
For what they could do in the future to be able to protect themselves or save themselves outside of cutting their budgets insanely and also slashing the prices of their games. But we know that that's not going to happen. Or,
well, to be fair, we know that that's not going to happen, but some hilarious shit has happened, like the Outer Worlds 2 has slashed its price by a whole whopping $10. Yes, clap, everyone. By $10 whole, which is obviously pathetic. And it's not going to make a difference. I think AAA games should cost $30 at this point. They already have microtransactions and predatory schemes in them. So paying more than $20, $30 maybe, or maybe $40 if the game is like, wow, I don't think it's worth it any longer.
Happen fast enough. And I'm sure a lot of these guys are probably thinking to themselves, AI is the answer, but the issue there is you're cutting the rope at both ends. People need jobs to be able to buy things, so if there's less people with jobs, there's less people buying products, and on top of that, we know that the savings that they're going to get from switching to AI is not going to be passed down to the customer. That's not going to happen. It didn't happen when they switched from physical to digital, so why would it happen now?
Classic.
If you're in your 20s or younger and you're watching this channel, first I'd like to say, great taste. But beyond that, I try to do my best to be able to promote the trades as much as I possibly can because it helped me when I was in the lowest point of my life. I didn't think I had a future. I didn't think I had anywhere to go. And then I found my way into the construction industry, and it gave me the ability to chase a dream like this later on down the road. And I cannot recommend the trades enough. It's some of the greatest people that you can.
Trades are good, but I would never recommend them. The truth is, listen, do you want me to be mean? Because I'll be fucking mean, okay? I'm gonna ruin all of your dreams. The reality is, if you have a fancy diploma and something, well, you know, not that requires you to sit in an office, you didn't get the job not because you didn't have 20 years of experience in an entry-level position. You didn't fucking get the job because your CV looked like trash, and if you didn't, and if you got asked to come over for an interview, probably sucked. That's the reality. I don't have this. I did not have this problem. Okay, I understood what I need to say, what I need to lie about, and I actually was really good at my job. Never had this problem. Never will have this problem. The last time I applied for a job was I don't know how many years ago, and they pretty much wanted me to hire me on the spot, but I demanded a salary that was 2 times larger than advertised. And then they said, okay, it's a little bit too much. Okay, we're gonna think about it. They thought about it. They contacted me and, well, they didn't agree with what I said, but they still offered way higher than it should have been. If you come into an interview and you fucking nail that shit because you're a god, there's not going to be any problems. Game recognizes game, boy.
Work with. It's incredibly difficult to break into. I'll give it that. There's a lot of nepotism. You got to know somebody in a lot of cases. Unless you're from like smaller cities and areas, usually those places are, you know, looking for folks. Literally every hall that I had ever worked with was
nepotism is a problem, but nepotism is not gonna be there when you're sending the CV. Nepotism is gonna be, okay, a position's opening, and we're just instantaneously putting him in because reason. That's nepotism. That's how it actually works in real life. A nepo baby does not have to send in his CV for real. Okay? They might actually have to send it, so it's a legit application, but the job offering is never going to go past that. The moment it's open, the CV is there. They don't even put it out online that, you know, they need someone. The nepo baby's in. When a nepo baby gets hired, you don't even know about it. The public doesn't know about it because the job listing was never even there. That position was way before anything was open.
Desperate for young folk. Because in most cases, they had guys that were in their late 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that's all they ever had, and they just had nobody else that was younger, and they need guys to be able to carry stuff. It's good money, it's honest money, and a lot of people over the course of time have tried to vilify it as much as they possibly can, and I'm going to be honest with you, that's because they're trying to keep you financially down. That's what it is. This is going to move fast. Very fast. Millennials, while being better off than Gen Z, they're not that much better off. And they're not so much better off that they can support the entire industry as we know it today with its current costs and how much it's monetized. It's just not going to happen. And, you know, the funny thing is, the more I think about it now, when I look at a lot of the games that have failed over the last couple of months or last couple of years now, any of the games that weren't aimed at us, millennials, failed badly in a lot of cases. And the reason why is because they never had another generation to be able to catch them. So if they were aiming for somebody else, they just straight up missed because those guys didn't have the money to be able to buy the games. These guys are screwed. These games take too long.
Hey, My Little Pony Island Adventures was way ahead of its time, okay? Just saying.
Long to make. They're too expensive to make. And while these guys are flailing around trying to figure everything out, indie's just going to come in and steal the scene. In fact, they already have. Now, I want to make this clear. Younger generations not buying games is not a passing trend. This is an industry-wide survival issue, at least for the modern games industry as we know it, because Gen Z is just the start. the generations that are behind them are going to have even fewer job prospects if things keep going this way. That means that when millennials are no longer the industry's core spenders, there won't be a replacement audience with the same buying power. And I think some publishers know this, or most publishers probably do, especially since they're the ones that are also contributing to those jobs disappearing. But given their size, the cost of their games, and the way that they operate, it's almost impossible for them to avoid a crash. I mean, the answers that these guys came to were live services and subscription platforms like Game Pass, Ubisoft Plus, PlayStation Plus, and more. On paper, the reasoning seems relatively solid.
On paper, yeah. I think the most devastating thing about Game Passes and things like that, on paper it kind of does seem solid, but the problem is you saturate your own market pretty fast because most people are just not interested in that garbage.
Free-to-play games and offer subscription services to be able to lower the barrier of entry, but the costs of running these services do not line up with the content or the monetization that they're delivering, and I think the result of this is going to be pretty predictable. Games and services that are aggressively monetized, overpriced, and have underwhelming offerings that struggle to be able to keep people engaged. With live service games, moderate success is not going to be enough in the future, and relying on them alone is only going to cause more issues down the line. I mean, right now, the entire model is to make the game for free and then to charge heavily for everything inside it. Cosmetics, weapons, playtime in some cases, $20 to $30, sometimes even over $100. And as costs start to rise and profit margins start to tighten, those prices are going to get pushed even higher to squeeze their players harder. And the more games that start to flood the market that are like this, the prices are going to just keep climbing to be able to justify their operating budgets. And the higher the climb, the less players are going to be willing to buy in, especially given economic conditions. So publishers are just going to start responding by making those purchases more central to the experience. Free cosmetics are going to be deliberately made to look worse than paid ones. We already see that right now. Progression is going to
No one's really gonna care. Everyone's flooded with cosmetics. This is one of the greatest things that, well, this is my theory. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's the fact that gaming has completely killed one of its biggest powers, and that is sunk cost fallacy. Like, gamers don't really experience sunk cost fallacies anymore. Spend 3K hours playing a game, something else fun comes? Fuck that, I'm going to do the fun thing, because it's new and fresh. Because every game now gives you like 50 cosmetics for free when you join it. Every game gives you something that previously made you attached to your account, attached to your game, because you spend time in it doing and getting this stuff. But now every game does that. Items are not rare. You probably get like a gift package whenever you start playing the game. And this has completely eroded and destroyed this, a certain part, at least, of sunk cost fallacy for a lot of people. It's the fact that they have a lot of stuff in this game. Well, you start playing a new game, you're probably going to have equally as almost much stuff in it in like a fucking week. So, nothing really seems permanent. Everything seems free. It's like the Diablo 4 mantra of everything needs to be plentiful and infinity has just spread throughout all of gaming some magically how. But in any case, that was a legendary drops. 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.